Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the final round of the Alfa Romeo Owners Club Bianco Motorsport Alfa Romeo Championship, the historic round. The historic championship will come to its conclusion tonight. So should be due some very exciting racing. My name is McRae. I'll be your host for this evening. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you're very well on this Thursday, and I hope you're safe and well with everything that's going on. We've got some very exciting evening plans for you. We've got a double header tonight at Brands Hatch for the classic round with using the classic Alfas. Qualifying has begun, so we will drop over to the grid. Once that, there we are. Slight computer delays as ever, but there we are. So qualifying has begun at Brands Hatch using the GP circuit and the classic Alfas, as we see. So initial thoughts. So far, Colin Knief setting a very quick time. Setting a very early pace in the session. I think going slightly slower that lap. But all our attention possibly will be on this man here, Andrew Whitehead, who has it all to lose, essentially. Topping the table. Commentator's going to strikes as he spins out at the entry of the first corner. So apologies for that, Andrew. But he tops the historic championship standings at the moment over Tim Perry in second in the championship and Matt Daly in third. And believe, talking to one of the directors, I believe that he if he wins the first race, then it's all sewn up for him. But if he doesn't, then we'll have to do some calculations to see what will happen for the next race. But we will end up with a championship winner by the end of tonight. But theoretically, any one of the top 4 or 5 competitors are still in with a shout. It's that close. So many months of racing, technical difficulties, things going on in the real world, and these guys have still got together every Thursday, put on a fantastic show, and produced some very, very close racing to the point that it has to come down to the final round to decide the historic championship winner. And we will do that tonight with 2 races for you. So at the moment, with still very early doors in qualifying, still with a lot of time to be made up, the cars are going to take a little bit of time to heat up, to get settled in. Once you get the heat into the tyres, you get better grip on the track. We've got dry conditions at Brands Hatch, which I can assure you nearly never happens in real life. But we have some very, very good conditions to get some fast pace out of these cars. Some of the word from some of the drivers is saying that the cars can be a tad tricky to handle, as we hear someone going into the gravel. Who was that was going on a little excursion? Looks like Tim Perry, actually, that possibly went a bit wide at the outer reaches of the GP circuit. I think that was Dingledell was his excursion there. But there we are, he's back on track and continuing on to try and get the best time he can. So with just over 40 minutes qualifying left, Colin Knief currently has provisional pole. But there is a very, very slim gap between him and Matt Daly's time in the bright yellow car. Very, very difficult to miss on any of the liveries on any of the circuits. Currently in, or heading up the second row, should I say, is Alan Matthews. Andrew Whitehead at the moment 0.7, nearly 0.8 of a second behind Colin in the 4th place on the grid. Currently being hounded by Paul Plant at the moment. Don't think Andrew is too willing to let him past. But the top 5 currently under a second, or within a second of each other, so it shows how close this racing is for these guys. Just getting over a second there, John Billingsley. We still have Greg Young a little bit off the pace, but still very, very close, and should be a good race from him. The first corner is always a very tricky one. It's a very, very fast downhill corner, side by side with each other. It's going to be very interesting how much movement you get in the first corner with these cars. Everyone's going to be vying for a place at the front. Andrew has to try and get through as cleanly as possible, which hasn't always happened, and has cost him some places in some of the races that we've held. So you see Luke Wiggins around a little bit wide down the Derek Minter straight, I believe. Heading back up the hill. So these cars are a little bit slidey, a little bit tough to handle, need a lot of concentration, as understeer can turn to oversteer very quickly. So, just over 10 minutes to go. We actually have a change at the front. Beg your pardon for not spotting that a little bit sooner. But we have, currently Matt Daly has actually improved on his time enough to clinch, to take pole position on the grid. But let's see a fantastic improvement from Andrew Whitehead there. Now up onto the front row of the grid, so that if he's able to improve on his time, that will obviously he'll be obviously looking to do that, but that could pay into his favour going into the first corner. Colin Knief now back down into third. Paul Plant now 1.3 seconds off pole position, but Matt Daly currently now has provisional pole for the race. The heat shimmer coming off the circuit, everyone trying to keep the cars in their optimum temperature range, get them as working as well as they can, getting the most grip out of the cars as they can. Tyre management, I'm sure, for the classics will come into play, who can keep their tyres working well under the incredible load that these things will have. Trying to manage the brakes as well with the 1970s Alfa technology and get this car as slowed as possible, dealing with the suspension systems and things like that. It could be quite a challenging race for some. It should be very entertaining to see how much close racing can be produced from such I have to say fantastic looking sports cars. Matt Daly sliding through Paddock Hill Bend, through the dip up to Druids there. Andrew Whitehead currently running a bit slower than in his fastest time, I believe. So has a little bit of work to do, but is at the sharp end of the grid, so that will could potentially work out very well for him. But it's all still to play for. Alan Matthews currently at the on the second row. Paul Plant, John Billingsley. We see John Billingsley sliding out there. I believe that's Graham Hillbend. It is indeed, as he returns to the circuit. Very young, another fast driver in 7th, provisionally 7th at the moment. Tim Perry's putting on a quick time here. Let's see. Jumps all the way up to 5th, so great improvement there from Tim Perry. As we see a stationary car just return to the pits there. So Tim Perry at the moment is the person in second place in the historic championship at the moment. So he will be desperately trying to get onto the back of Andrew Whitehead's car and see how much of a dent he can make in Andrew's lead for the championship. Matt Daly currently putting in personal best first sector. We're starting off the lap at a very quick time, I think, trying to hoping to try and extend his lead over Andrew Whitehead on the front row. Unfortunately, seems to go a little bit slower in the second sector. Andrew again with a bit of ground to make up. Looks like he had a bit of an off in the first sector, and we'll have to come around and try again. Tim Perry's returned to the pits to make some adjustments that he can. Again, locked setups for these cars, so they don't. They have a certain amount of adjustment with tyre pressures, I think, and certain other aspects of the car. Paul Plant there in striking blue and white livery. The Bianco Motorsport driver. Getting round the circuit. It'd be interesting to see. You have to be careful with trying to put too many wheels on the grass there. One offside rear tyre on the grass while the car is swinging around, and then suddenly you'll have the rear wheels overtaking the front. John Billingsley putting in a great time there, jumping up to the third row of the grid ahead of Tim Perry. So I'm sure Tim will have seen that. Might not be too happy, so we'll be trying to get that place back. So with just under 4 minutes remaining of the qualifying session here this evening, Matt Daly currently has provisional pole and is continuing to try and get even faster. Andrew Whitehead just completing another lap. I don't believe this will be enough to get pole position. And it's not at the moment, just 0.4 of a second off Matt Daly's time. But is on the front row of the grid. Colin Knief heads up second row with Alan Matthews next to him, who is actually going a bit quicker in the middle sector. He has some momentum here. Can he upset the top order? Just heading past the down the clear way straight to Clark Curve. Heavy braking as he turns into the big right-hander, off-camber right-hander I believe as well, with the dip in the middle. Can he upset the people in front of him? Unfortunately not, loses time in the last sector, so still has a bit of work to do and remains on the second row. With Sir John Billingsley heading up the third row at the moment, unless things are all about to change. Andrew Whitehead has starting to get some pace on now. Started to put in a very clean, tidy lap. Will this be enough to clinch pole position with just under 2 minutes of qualifying remaining? Not quite. Not quite. He improves on his time, but is not quite enough. Still 0.3, like 3.5. I mean, it's so close between these gentlemen. 0.356 per second behind Matt Daly. So it looks like unless he can put in a very quick lap, though I'm not sure about these entries to the first corner, and I think he's also run wide as well, so that'll invalidate his lap now. And with 1 minute 44 seconds to get round, I very much doubt there's enough time for him to get round the circuit past the start finish line as of yet, but we shall see. Matt Daly again going quicker. He'll be able to finish what lap this is, but potentially may have done enough. And the first sector doesn't look great for Andrew, so it looks provisionally, again, it's not over till it's over. Some of the gentlemen are exiting the lobby, which we'll need to do in a moment. But so far we have James Rose at the back of the grid. Very strange to see him at that point, unless that's because of the way that he changed. Paul Plant putting in a fantastic lap and getting up to third, to the third row. Guy Swarbrick has actually done a personal best in sector 2, but will not be enough. So we'll have to settle for second on the grid. Daly putting in a very quick time. So that is your starting order for the first race of the evening. The first two rows, Matt Daly and Andrew Whitehead on the first row, Colin Knief and Alan Matthews on the second row, and we will have to confirm what the next running order will be once we get back into the lobby. So we're just going to reset proceedings, and then we will be able to continue with tonight's event. Yeah, even so, looking some very, very close racing. Andrew Whitehead not able to clinch pole position, so we'll make a very interesting beginning of the race. Again, very, very tricky first few corners. It's going to be a very tricky lap, to be honest. The two sort of fairly heavy braking zones. You've got the uphill braking zone into Druids if people manage to survive Paddock Hill Bend as well, with all the manic action you tend to see at races like this. It should be very interesting to see. And we will just wait for proceedings to get underway, and we will be back in a quick moment. Thank you very much for waiting there, and we are back now with just a few moments until the race begins. So just to confirm, there has actually been some changes that I've just seen, which I wasn't aware of before. But we have Matt Daly in pole position, and something that I completely missed, but Colin Knief is actually on the front row ahead of Andrew Whitehead. So what looks like Andrew had done enough, evidently he had not, and was clinched at the last moment by Colin, so the front row is now Matt Daly and Colin Knief. Row 2 is Andrew Whitehead and Alan Matthews. Your row 3 is John Billingsley and Paul Plant. Row 4 is Tim Perry and Greg Young. Row 5 is Luke Wiggins and Guy Swarbrick. Row 6 is James Rose and Rob Whitney. So that certainly stirs up the order quite a bit. So it leaves extra work for Andrew to do, if I could get those words in the right order. So with Matt Daly in the lead, let's see what he can do for the race. We have the final countdown on the clock. The lights are on the gantry. 6 red lights to get them going. They are all ready and raring to go for the final round of the Historic Championship. And away they go. And a slightly bad start from Matt Daly. That's left Colin and everyone essentially to catch up. And he is just going to hold on to it going into the first corner. Everyone appears to have got through very cleanly, which is fantastic to see just on the run up to the hill. Not much has changed in the order. Paul Plant has sort of a half spin, goes into the grass. That's going to push him down the order and allows Greg Young to catch up. We have someone going off the circuit. I'm not sure who that was. I think it was Guy Swarbrick. What is happening at the front? Matt Daly has still managed to hold on to pole position at the front of the grid and is in first place. Currently with Colin Knief on his tail, Andrew Whitehead in third position. So they are in the order they started. They've all got through very, very cleanly and are just beginning to settle in to their line at the moment. But Colin Knief is on the back of Matt Daly's car very, very closely. There's a slight gap forming between Andrew Whitehead and Alan Matthews. I think Alan may be getting slightly distracted with John Billingsley, who is right behind his car. There's a slight touch between Paul Plant and Greg Young at the back, which both Greg Young and Tim Perry actually go very wide. There's an accident now as it looks like Luke Wiggins has gone into the side of... who are we looking at? Into the side of Whitney's car. I think they've all got going. No, just about get going again. But Luke Wiggins and Greg Young now at the back of the field, which is a great shame. Colin Knief right on the bumper of Matt Daly going into the first corner. Again, everyone making it through very cleanly. The top 3 just split within a second of each other now, but there is looks like a slight... Who's that? James Rose has had an off at the first corner and has dropped down the order as well. Very unlike him as well. There's someone else again. Luke Wiggins going off the circuit into the gravel and allowing Greg Young to get past him. But at the front of the grid as they get round... where's my map? Because I have no idea where else they get around. Surtees, beg your pardon. Down past the bridge into another downhill section. We have Matt Daly and Colin Knief and Andrew Whitehead actually beginning to just drop back a little bit from them. Looks like we've had Andrew Brammer may have also had a slight incident at Surtees and has dropped down the order as well. So a few people making their own mistakes at the moment, sort of untampered by anyone else. apart from I think Luke Wiggins, who had the unfortunate incident hitting another stationary car on the circuit, but has decided to continue, which is great to see. So as they head through Clark Curve on the second lap of the race, Matt Daly is currently in first position with Colin Knief behind him. There's a change in the mid-pack between Guy Swarbrick and Rob Whitney. So Matt Daly and Colin Knief separated by 0.7 of a second. Andrew Whitehead currently in third. Alan Matthews is now in fourth. There's a battle between Paul Plant and John Billingsley. John now trying to get up the inside of Graham Hill Bend, and does a very, very good job getting it slowed under brakes and turned in enough to take the fifth place from John. But John is going to try and come back at him, and he does. Paul Plant looks to be going wide, has opened the door, and John is forcing his way through, but can he get the run down? He can't, and dips back in behind the blue Alfa there. Again, there's contact between the two, and they've touched, and it's forced both of them into the barriers and into the gravel track. Oh dear, that's not what either of them wanted. John Billingsley was looking desperately for an open door down the Pilgrim's Drop straight coming into Hawthorne Bend. Did not back out of that at all, and when Paul Plant moved over onto the racing line as he was expecting, unfortunately they just sent both of them into the gravel. So that's not a great result from either of them. A great shame for both of them. Paul Plant has recovered and is up into sixth now, behind Tim Perry, who is a little bit up the road ahead of him. And John Billingsley is now recovered back into ninth. As we actually see Rob Whitney and John Billingsley just battle it away. Rob trying to get John on the inside, or back at the inside. It looks like Rob might also lose out to James Rose, who's doing a very good job creeping up the order at the moment, trying to get on the outside of Paddock Hill Bend. A very, very brave manoeuvre, but Rob goes wide. Does that allow James to open the door? It doesn't. James is trying desperately to get past, takes to the inside of the circuit, potentially off the circuit. A very, very cut line there. So there may be a inquiry into that pass, but they didn't make contact and they both get to continue. There is a fight between Andrew Bram and Greg Young as they join the battle now. So a great battle shaping up at the lower end of the field, but at the sharp end, Matt Daly has opened up nearly a second over Colin Knief, but that's not quite enough to shake him from the tail of the yellow Alfa. Andrew Whitehead has dropped back a little bit to 2 seconds, but is still very much in touch to take advantage of any incidents that happened between the two front runners. Still very, very early stages of the race. Alan Matthews showing great race pace in fourth place there. Fantastic shot there, showing them disappearing into Clark Curve. Tim Perry, the second place currently in the Historic Championship, in fifth place and a fair few seconds down the road from the front runners, but is still in the points. Paul Plant, after that incident, John Billingsley is currently in sixth, with Guy Swarbrick on his tail in seventh. As we see John Billingsley doing his best to catch up now, he's currently in eighth. James Rose, starting from the back of the field, is doing a great job. We've got people going off into the gravel. It looks like Greg Young, not the one into the gravel, sorry. Andrew Brammer went wide at Paddock Hill Bend, as we have a battle for 10th place on the grid. 10th place, rather, between Rob Whitney, Greg Young and Luke Wiggins. Looks like Rob went quite slow. Greg got a better line coming out of Graham Hill Bend, but he's not able to capitalise on that going into 30s. And we'll also have to be looking behind him now at Rob Whitney. So looking back at the front end of the grid, there's a slight change in the middle as it looked like Luke Wiggins has actually managed to get the better of Rob Whitney through the latter stages of the circuit, but just hangs on to that car. That was a very, I'm sure, brown moment for Luke there. The car swinging across the circuit through Sheens. Lap 5 now of the race with just over 20 minutes to go of the half-an-hour race. For the gentleman in the historic championship, Matt Daly currently in first with Colin Knief now second behind him. Quite a gap now opening between them and Andrew Whitehead. Doing his best to keep going. Starting to drop back, but is in the points and on for a great result here today. Alan Matthews at the moment in fourth, but Tim Perry looks to have actually closed the gap a little bit between him and Alan. So we shall see if any sparring develops between the two. Some gaps opening up between our drivers here at the moment. Guy Swarbrick looked like he was doing his best to catch up to Paul. Has now dropped back a little bit and will soon unfortunately be in the clutches of John Billingsley. John slides the car round Dingle-Dell, I believe. There have been changes at the back of the pack. We've got Greg Young and James Rose fighting us out for 9th at the moment now. Oh no, there's been a change again. Oh, John Billingsley managed to catch up to Guy Swarbrick very, very quickly. I think, unfortunately, Guy may have had an incident. Luke Wiggins has spun and has handed 2 places to Andrew Brammer and Rob Whitney. The fight between James Rose and Greg Young continues down the main Brabham Straight into the first bend, both braking hard, looking for their braking points, not able to win out over each other at the moment. Heading back up the hill to Druids. Greg going very defensive, going in there, but that will put him offline and allow Greg Young to close the gap very, very significantly as they're now breaking into 30s again. James going very, very defensive, puts him offline and he's not able to get the most speed out of the corner, and that nearly has put Greg Young up beside the car. And again, James going very wide again. That's allowed Greg Young up the inside. And very clean, quick manoeuvre to take 9th place from James Rose. Let's see if James can come back at him to get the position back. He's in the slipstream, but looks like he's not going to be able to respond as Greg Young is now beginning to disappear up the road. Colin Knief putting in a personal best lap by the looks of it. Now 1.5 seconds behind Matt Daly, so it looks like he's just hanging back a little bit, just biding his time, trying to keep the car manageable, not trying to overdrive it and cause an incident to lose his place on the circuit. But it'll be interesting to see if he can respond to Matt's pace in the latter stages of the race. Andrew Whitehead now nearly 6.5 seconds behind the leader. Alan Matthews doing his best to keep the... There's been a change again as Andrew Brammer has managed to get the best of James Rose, and it looks like James Rose was rejoining after possibly going and running a little bit wide at the first corner at Paddock Hill Bends there. So it looks like through the order, everyone's sort of settling into their race. Paul Plant trying to get onto the tail of Tim Perry, and in turn Tim Perry trying to catch up to Alan Matthews. The gap does look to be getting smaller by the lap, very, very slightly, so he's trying to do his absolute best to get onto the back of him. So with 7 laps completed now of the race and just over half the race time to count down, Matt Daly is still holding first position. Andrew Brammer has come off the circuit. Whether that was an incident on his own or whether he was pushed, we unfortunately weren't able to see. And there's a spinner at the back. Luke Wiggins, unfortunately, losing the back end of the car, coming around Sheens and spins out on the circuit, but is able to continue. So potentially the same thing happened to Andrew. We're not too sure. He was very close to Rob Whitney and James Rose. So potentially a small nudge could have caused him to initiate the spin. But we don't know, unfortunately. But we do know that he is currently now back down in 12th at the moment. So as they're just coming round to Sterling's corner, Matt Daly currently in first place. A 2.5 second gap now opening up between him and Colin Knief. And then in turn 6.5 seconds from Matt until Andrew Whitehead. Alan Matthews currently in 4th. And Tim Perry is now on the same straight as Alan and getting ever closer. So Tim must be pushing very, very hard to get his overall pace back up and onto the back of Alan's car. See him brake, find his braking point, Paddock Hill, turn the car in, trying to balance the car through the corner. Not the easiest cars to get round, but certainly very entertaining to watch. Paul Plant now up, now in 6th at the moment. John Billingsley behind him in 7th. So John has done a very good job to recover from his incident with Paul and move up from 9th or 10th, I believe, to where he is at the moment, and within a stone's throw distance from Paul Plant there. Again, Tim really managing to close the gap down now to Alan Matthews. So if he hasn't seen him yet, he will know. He will soon know that Tim is behind him and closing the gap. So Alan will have to do his best to keep him at bay if he wants to maintain that 4th position with 12 minutes to go, but it'll be very interesting to see. What will be due to happen? Well, lap 10 now. That's actually a personal best from Tim Perry there. So really pushing the car. Matt Daly in first on lap 10, just coming out of Surtees corner. Colin Knief in second. We're getting now 3.7 seconds. Andrew Whitehead in third. And Alan Matthews in fourth with Tim Perry trying to reel him in. Paul Blight back in sixth. John Billingsley in seventh. Guy Swarbrick up into eighth. Running a little bit wide at Druids, and that will allow Greg Young to close the gap on Guy there. Looks like Greg had got a better run out of the corner, but he's not quite close enough to make any manoeuvre yet. Currently James Rose, Rob Whitney and Andrew Brammer and Luke Wiggins all in their respective places. We're looking at the battle between Guy Swarbrick and Greg Young now. Greg Young looking for any open door he can and any opportunity to get past him that he can find. Will he do it coming into Sterling's? He has the inside line, not quite close enough to take the place yet, but he's now on the back of Guy's car, so he will be doing all he can to get past, just trying to find where Guy is weakest on the track. We've got another spin by the looks of it. Rob Whitney has recovering from an incident there. There was quite a gap between all of the cars at the back of the pack, I believe, so I think that's an isolated incident on his own. The gap between Tim Perry and Alan Matthews is reducing by the lap ever still, but Tim is not able to do anything about it yet, trying his best to get where he needs to be. Guy Swarbrick in 9th and James Rowe still in 10th. But Guy now under pressure from Greg Young, Guy Swarbrick. So Guy Swarbrick now under pressure from Greg Young as they come out of Surtees down the straight. Guy trying to defend from Greg, making any manoeuvre. Can Greg get it done under braking? He's not quite close enough. It'd be a bit of a dive from this distance. I'm sure he doesn't want to do anything that could possibly hurt his chances at an 8th place. With just over 8 minutes of the countdown remaining. Greg Young just biding his time behind Guy. Guy going very defensive into Sterling's. Turns in and gets as much power down as he can. Greg Young currently is in the slipstream coming into Clark's Curve. Can he get a good run down the main straight? Not quite close enough yet. Again, Guy Swarbrick going defensive on the inside of the circuit, moving to the outside, spots his braking point, but runs wide coming out of Paddock Hill Bend. Greg did slow up. Greg is looking at the inside of Druids, but not able to do it. Guy Swarbrick runs very, very wide, turns on the gets around the corner, just is able to hold on to 9th place at the moment. But Greg is getting into Guy's head there and showing that he wants to get past. He wants to 8th place from Guy. I think the leaders have not particularly changed much, no, but the gap's significantly smaller now between Alan Matthews and Tim Perry. I don't believe there's going to be There's a fight happening between Rob Whitney and Andrew Bremer as well. So some close battles happening now throughout the grid. Paul Plant must be getting worried now because Tim Perry has really closed the gap. And with 6 minutes left to go, there will be time for him to try a manoeuvre. Greg Young struggling to get the car slowed down enough. Looked at a inside line at Sterling's, but wasn't able to do it. Dipped in behind Guy, but lost time coming out. So now he has a few yards to make up again. Fantastic battle between the two. They're very respectful driving between the two. Greg Young and Guy Swarbrick for 8th position. Tim Perry and Alan Matthews looking for a 4th place. Tim Perry has shown very good pace to close the gap down for that 4th position. Rob Whitney looks like he has fallen back a bit from Andrew Bremer. I didn't see the order change, so I think that was the order they were in earlier. Greg Young still putting pressure on Guy Swarbrick, looking outside line. Guy moves across and cuts him off. And that gets him to drop back, but it looks like he's got a better drive coming out of Surtees. He is in the slipstream of Guy's car. Will he look to do it under the brakes coming into Hawthorne? Not quite. Still very patiently following Guy around the circuit, trying to find out where Guy is weakest. Guy doing a fantastic effort to defend his position from Greg Young, but it looks like Greg has got a better drive, but hangs back, doesn't want to cause an incident between the two. Guy again, fantastic placing of the car to defend his position on the circuit. And Greg Young not quite close enough through Clark Curve to get a manoeuvre done. What is the gap between Tim Perry and Alan Matthews? Is looks like definitely less than a second. Looks like 0.4 of a second at most between the two. So this is for 4th place on the grid now. 4th place result. But Tim Perry falling behind slightly down straight into Hawthorne Bend. Alan Matthews, beg your pardon, very defensive, going through Hawthorne, trying to keep Tim Perry at bay. Tim Perry does look like he's had the pace, but there's contact between the two. Tim Perry has so much more speed coming through Dingle Dell, and struggled to get the car slowed down. I think he was looking for an outside passing manoeuvre over Alan Matthews, but for whatever reason carried so much more speed through there. Looks like there's been an incident between Luke Wiggins and Rob Whitney. Rob now recovering from the outside of the outside the barriers. The battle is still going on between Greg Young and Guy Swarbrick. Greg Young's not able to get past Guy quite yet. Guy's been defending very well, putting his car, but he does run wide coming out of Sterling's corner. Greg Young had to take slightly evasive action to try and get round, and he's closer this time coming through Clark Curve. Guy again makes a mistake. Looks like he's lost drive. That will that allow Greg to get up beside him? Not quite. Both spot their braking line. Guy moves to the outside the circuit. Greg backs off to allow him the space to do so. And then they continue around the circuit up the hill to Druids. Guy again running wide. Cuts back into the onto the racing line. So seems to be struggling slightly. The tyres will be seriously degraded now for both of them. Greg Young has managed to get up the side. Guy Swarbrick has the better position coming into Surtees and is able to very cleanly get the job done. Can Guy come back again? Can Guy get a better drive coming down the main straight? Doesn't look like it. Greg Young defends his position from Guy, and it looks like the job has been done. Can Guy get him under braking? Not quite. He still has to drop in behind Greg Young, but looks to be very close to try and do it. Looking at every corner on the inside, trying to get the cut done on Mr. Young there, but the gap's beginning to open up. So with 1 minute of the race left, this looks like it will be the penultimate lap. We still have one more lap to go from the leader. Guy Swarbrick has actually managed to get Greg Young has come off the circuit. Unfortunately, we clicked away from what happened there, so we don't know if there was an incident or a touch between the two. But unfortunately, Greg Young was stationary at the side of the circuit, allowed Guy Swarbrick to get past. So with 30 seconds on the clock remaining, Matt Daly is now beginning to come up to Rob Whitney, the lapping traffic now. Very, very good idea of Rob there to get out of the way from Matt Daly there. Colin Knief and Andrew Whitehead will have to tackle the same lapped cars. But fantastic performance from the top 4 drivers where they are. So as we see Matt Daly come across the start-finish line to begin the final lap of this evening's race, of the first of 2 races here at Brands Hatch for the historic championship. Currently Colin Knief just trying to get past the lap traffic there. Andrew Whitehead about to do the same, currently in 3rd place on the podium. Tim Perry again has managed to close up right behind Alan Matthews, so he will be possibly trying to do last lap heroics maybe, but looks to be slightly too far behind. There's no major battles happening between the rest of the pack, bar that one between Tim Perry and Alan Matthews. Alan Matthews runs wide coming out of 30s. Does that allow Tim to get a better run? Not quite, but he is on the back of Alan's car. They'll both be aware this is the last lap, and Alan runs very wide, half spins the car. There's contact between the two coming down the main straight, and Tim Perry manages to get the job done very cleanly. No major interventions happened there from either of them. Alan Matthews will be kicking himself now. That was unfortunately that was it started from Alan running wide and essentially allowed Tim Perry to pass him. But we have our leader coming through Clark Curve to finalize the race for us now. Matt Daly in 1st place. He's the winner of race 1, with Colin Knief taking 2nd and Andrew Whitehead taking 3rd. Tim Perry looks to and does take 4th position away from Alan Matthews in 5th. Paul Plant, after early lap troubles, comes to finish in 6th. John Billingsley will again come around to Clark Curve to finish in 7th place. Guy Swarbrick getting very cleanly through Stirling's down clearways into Clark Curve. Will be able to finish in 8th place there. And just behind him will be Greg Young in 9th. James Rose takes 10th position. Andrew Brammer now finishing off the lap to take 11th. And just behind him, Luke Wiggins to take 12th. So, I said it was going to be close, and it was. It definitely was. Very, very close at the beginning of the race between the top positions there. So just to confirm, Matt Daly in first, Colin Keneath in second, 1.5 seconds the gap in the end between the two. Andrew Whitehead in third, 4 seconds behind the leader. So Andrew Whitehead and Tim Perry in third and finishing in third and fourth in that race. So we'll have to see what that does for the overall championship points. I believe we have someone trying to make amendments as we speak. So whether we manage to get a an overall picture, we shall wait to see. But that is race 1 done and dusted, and then we have the second race still to come, which I believe the qualifying positions will be controlled by the finishing order of race 1 there. But yes, very unfortunate incident between Paul Plant and John Billingsley. Looked like a very, very good fight between the two. Great racing from Guy Swarbrick. Tim Perry managing to get clinch 4th place at the last moment as well. Fantastic result for him. So very, very close racing. A little incident, not all that many incidents for drivers to do. So it seems to be they're handling the cards very, very well, which is great to see. Yeah, fantastic, great start to the race. It was a little bit. I think Matt Daly didn't get away quite as well as he'd hoped, but he was still able to maintain 3rd place and do very well out of it. So we are going to hopefully have some amendments to the championship results, and then we will be back shortly for race 2 at Brands Hatch this evening. Don't go anywhere. So we are back for race 2 of this evening at Brands Hatch. Our starting order is a complete reverse grid from the finishing positions of race 1. So in first place now we have Rob Whitney on the first row of the grid. Rob Whitney and Luke Wiggins. For row 2 we have Andrew Bremer and James Rose, I believe that is. On row 3 it's Greg Young and Guy Swarbrick. On row 4 is John Billingsley and Paul Plant. Row 5 is Alan Matthews and Tim Berry. Row 6, I believe things have gone slightly out of order there. It will be Alan Matthews and Guy Swarbrick. No, beg your pardon. Alan Matthews, Tim Perry, Andrew Whitehead, Colin Knief, and then at the back of the field is Matt Daly. So we still have a championship to play for this evening. There we go. So Rob Whitney on the front row. Let's see. Let's hope he can get a good getaway this evening to get a good result. With the final countdown now for the second race and the final round of the historic championship. Text lights appear on the gantry for the drivers. Wait for the lights to go out, and away they go. Everyone with massive wheel spin. There's a collision in the middle of the pack. It looks like the slow cars are causing a few drivers to take evasive action through the pack. They've got a few people sliding through the first corner, but everyone has been able to recover and make it through fairly cleanly. We've got a James Rose and I think Tim Perry battling in the middle. Guy Swarbrick has slowed and hits Colin Knief, who takes to the inside of the circuit. Andrew Whitehead looks to have got through very, very cleanly. There is cars all over the place. Andrew is going to go on the outside to try and get the position from Paul Plant as they head through Surtees. Greg Young just drops behind Paul Plant there. Guy Swarbrick has unfortunately lost out to Matt Daly. Matt Daly all the way still at the back of the field. Not able to get through the carnage yet to get a good result. But it's the positions of it is the positions of Tim Perry, Paul Plant, Matt Daly and Andrew Whitehead that we're going to be interested in as to who is able to get the most points to clinch a title. There's still lots and lots of movement in the middle of the pack. It looks like Tim Perry's on the back of Alan Matthews. Tim Perry has just got up the inside of John Billingsley, but the cars are cascading, spinning around on the circuit. A few people hitting the barriers. There was a massive incident in the middle where Tim Perry and Andrew Matthews went wide on Sheens, beg your pardon, and wasn't able to get a clean line through the lap. Looks like Tim Perry again is now on the back of Luke Wiggins, trying to get round the slow drivers in front of him at the front of the grid. Paul Plant has now made it all the way up into first place. Andrew Bremer has gone very wide in the first corner, and that's going to allow Andrew Whitehead to look up the inside and get the manoeuvre done through Druids. Up into second place now. Andrew Bremer trying to defend, but looks like we'll just about hold on to third place. Again, we've got movement at the back of the field. It's quite a tight battle. Tim Berry is just able to get round. Guy Swarbrick just able to slow the car enough through Graham Hill Bend. But he has Alan Matthews on. James Rose has Alan Matthews on his tail. Luke Wiggins has been turned around There's more people. Rob Whitney is stationary, just getting going again. There's lots and lots of movement still going through the midfield, all the way through the field. Alan Matthews gets past James Rose and Guy Swarbrick up into 8th. A fantastic double overtaking manoeuvre down the straight into Hawthorne Bend. Just ahead of him is Tim Perry. Just ahead of him is Matt Daly on the back of Greg Young's car. Right. So that's the first few laps of the race done and dusted. At the moment, we have Paul Plant in first place, Andrew Whitehead in second, Andrew Bramat now in third, Colin Knief in fourth, Greg Young in fifth, but is just getting overtaken by Matt Daly in sixth. Or is he? It looks like he's trying to hold on to that position going down the main straight. Can Matt Daly get it under brakes and turned in enough? He can. There's people in the grass. Andrew Whitehead has gone wide and has had a collision with Andrew Brammer and is now falling down the order. Matt Daly has managed to get past him. So has Greg Young and Colin Knief. Paul Plant will be loving that because he's able to get quite a lot further up the road. Andrew Whitehead is still dropping down the order. Looks like Andrew may have just run wide and had an incident, potentially put a tyre on the gravel and caused him to half spin the car. I don't believe he was in battling with Paul Plant as of yet. But that's a terrible incident for Andrew Whitehead as he drops down the order. And that's not what he wanted to happen this evening. And again, there's more contact with him as he is tagged by Guy Swarbrick, I think that was. And ends up spinning around and is now struggling to rejoin after hitting the barrier. But he does get going all the way back into 12th, so has a lot of work ahead of him now. At the front of the grid, Paul Plant now 5.5 seconds ahead of Colin Knief, with Matt Daly on his tail. Greg Young back in 4th and Tim Perry in 5th, though quite a significant battle now. Looks like it's heating up between the for second place in the race. A fair gap now from them until Alan Matthews, so Alan Matthews will be trying his best to get onto that battling group. James Rose in 7th, Guy Swarbrick in 8th, Rob Whitney in 9th there, John Billingsley all the way down in 10th, Andrew Brammer in 11th, Andrew Whitehead back in 12th, and does actually have to take to pit road for what must be repairs to the car after such a heavy incident with another car, and also with the wall as well after I think an incident with Guy Swarbrick. So Andrew Whitehead there just making repairs to his car. Paul Plant is in first place on lap 3 of the race now with 23 minutes left on the clock. So still a fairly long race ahead of us. The battle for second position between Matt Daly and Colin Knief heating up, both sliding the cars through Dingle Dell's corner. Beg pardon, Westfield Bend and then Dingle Dell's corner. Now as they all speed through Sheens up into the left-hander of Sterling. So Matt Daly is in the slipstream of Colin Knief's car and will try and do his best to get around him as quickly and as cleanly as possible, but they are both competitive drivers, and I'm sure Colin will have other ideas about letting Matt Daly past him. So very interesting battles shaping up between the two. Colin Knief goes very, very wide into the first corner, nearly loses it, but is able to keep going. That's allowed Matt Daly all the way up the inside under brakes and gets the job done through Druids. So Colin Knief has now lost out to Matt Daly, who is now up into second place. Colin Knief trying to do his best to come back at him, but a costly error from Colin there. There's cars scattering everywhere through the dip going up to Druids. It looks like Rob Whitney has lost out. I don't know whether that was an incident caused by another driver or separate incidents. Guy Swarbrick is on the back of James Rose's car trying to battle for 7th there. James Rose running a bit wide. Guy Swarbrick hoping to capitalise on that. Andrew Whitehead has continued on after his repairs, but devastatingly is in 13th place in the order, and that potentially could shake up the order quite dramatically. I don't want to call anything quite yet because we don't know what the points will do. There's still 20 minutes left in the race. Anything can still happen. But Andrew's nearest competitor, Matt Daly, for the championship title is in 2nd place. And Andrew, unfortunately, is last in the race. So the points gap could be quite significant there, potentially causing a massive upset in the order. So after the excitement of the first 10 minutes of the race, there's still a battle going on for 4th place between Greg Young and Tim Perry. Greg Young trying to defend as much as possible, and Tim is looks like he's quite aggressively trying to open up the door, and not able to do it as of yet. Or can he now? He looks like he's had a better run coming down the straight. Coming out of Surtees corner. He's right on the back bumper there. Right in the slipstream, trying to look for any opening he can. They both turn into Hawthorne Bend. And Greg looks like he has run slightly wide. And Tim Perry gets up the inside. A fantastic manoeuvre there. Puts it, slows the car down under the brakes. Going through Westfield, I think. Greg trying to counter that manoeuvre and get the 4th place back, but he's not able to do it, and a fantastic manoeuvre by Tim Perry sees him up into 4th place now. Saw an opportunity, created it for himself, managed to get the manoeuvre done very, very cleanly. Fantastic job between the two of them. Guy Swarbrick has managed to get past James Rose as James Rose runs off the circuit at Sheens. James Rose just getting going, and will have to get going quite quickly, otherwise he'll have John Billingsley on his tail fairly quickly. Andrew Whitehead in last place, unfortunately having Paul Plant on his tail, but in the wrong order that he wanted. So Andrew Whitehead will have to do his best not to get lapped by Paul, which will be an incredible shame for Andrew Whitehead. Paul Plant in 1st place still, 5 seconds ahead of Matt Daly, but Matt is doing his best to reduce that gap. In turn, the gap increasing between Matt Daly and Colin Knief, and then shrinking again between Colin Knief and Tim Perry. So the last third of the race is shaping up to be quite spectacular, with the pace from our drivers at the moment. Alan Matthews back in 6th place at the Guy Swarbrick up into 7th. James Rose up into 8th. John Billingsley currently in 9th. Andrew Brammer in 10th. Rob Whitney in 11th. Luke Wiggins in 12th, Andrew Whitehead in 13th, and looks like Andrew is able to maintain that gap at the moment, so he's not quite getting lapped at the moment. But it'll be interesting to see what happens when Andrew and Paul both meet, potentially meet lapping traffic. Matt Daly in 2nd place, just beginning lap 7. The gap down now to 4.3 seconds. between Paul Plant and Matt Daly. So incredible skill and pace from Matt Daly there, reducing the gap even further. Colin Knief starting to drop back and will be, I'm sure, looking in his mirrors for where Tim Perry is behind him. There's a change in the middle. James Rose is just getting going from an instant as well. And we said he would have John Billingsley behind him fairly soon. But unfortunately not a battle that lasted too long by the looks of it. And now John is on the back of the orange Halford's car of Guy Swarbrick. Can he get the manoeuvre done quick and cleanly? Guy is going very defensive, but runs wide under the brakes going into Surtees. There's contact between the two as Guy tries to cut across and defend his position. John Billingsley was fairly up the inside, but not able to get the job done. It looks like a car that was running straight on. Rob Whitney has spun coming out of Druids on the downhill. I'm not sure what was happening to the car behind. Back, it looked like it was sort of going the wrong way up the circuit, but they have continued anyway. Paul Plant looks like he may have made an error some point in the race, because the gap between Andrew Whitehead is incredibly large now, and Matt Daly is almost on his back bumper. So I think Paul Plant putting so much effort into getting the car round, and possibly might have outdriven himself ever so slightly, and that's allowed Matt Daly really up behind him now. So this is the battle for the lead midway through the race between Paul Plant and Matt Daly. Paul runs slightly wide through Surtees, but that Matt Daly is not able to get the manoeuvre finished quite yet. As they both spot their braking zones through Hawthorne Bend. Matt Daly right on the back of Paul Plant now in the slipstream, spotting every braking point Paul Plant is making, trying to find his weaknesses now, trying to find the open door to challenge for the lead. Both cars bumping over the curbs. Now in the left-hander of Sterling, Paul Plant getting very wide and out of shape coming out of Sterling's corner. Matt Daly looking to go down the inside of Clark Curve, not able to do it. Paul Plant trying to do his best to get the car turned in as much as possible. Matt Daly is right on the back bumper. He's in the slipstream, moves to the outside of the circuit looking for a manoeuvre. Not able to do it quite yet. Very brave to do it coming through Paddock Hill Bend. But could be in a prime position for the braking zone of Druids. Not able to do it. Paul Plant defends very heavily on the inside line. The racing between them now has allowed Colin Knief to close up to the back of Matt Daly's car to hopefully get in on the action as well. Matt Daly just dropping behind slightly now, waiting to see if Paul Plant will make an error, piling the pressure onto the back of Paul's car to try and force him into a mistake. It looks like John Billingsley has managed to get past Guy Swarbrick. So quite a close battle, I think, between the two of them for a while. But following the lead battle now, as they go through the right-hander, Paul Plant cutting the corner very heavily. His near side wheels weren't particularly on the circuit going through that corner, so that potentially could cause an issue with the stewards later on in the race. But you can see how much he's pushing and how desperately he is to maintain that first position from Matt Daly, who is up beside him coming through Clark Curve on the outside, not able to get the manoeuvre done. Paul Plant gets a good drive down the start-finish straight. Can Matt Daly get it done through Paddock Hill Bend? He is on the outside again. They both spot the braking zone. It's light contact between the two. Paul Plant gets out of shape. Matt Daly does as well, but they both managed to recover very, very well. That was a very close call between the two. Colin Knief now looking for an outside manoeuvre through Druids on the back of Matt Daly's car now. So Matt Daly having to contend with... beg your pardon. Matt Daly now having to contend with cars front and behind and having to balance the pressure he'll be feeling from Colin Knief's car with trying to get the car as close to Paul Plant as possible. But we're still over 11 minutes of the race remaining. He will have time to try again for that manoeuvre. He does have a it looks like he does have a quicker pace than Paul Plant in this race. The car's sliding round Westfield Bend, I think that is. And that's Westfield Bend, going through Dingledale and Sheens up into Stirling's corner. The gap now 0.6 of a second between Paul Plant and Matt Daly. Some close battles. Colin Knief on the back of that group fighting for the lead. Tim Perry has fallen behind the leaders slightly now, but doing his best to keep in touch. I'm sure we'll be able to capitalise on any mistakes made by the others. There's something clattering a Paul Plant's car by the sounds of it. As they all get the car slowed down for Druids on the uphill braking zone there. So the gap's evened out slightly now. Matt Daly trying to refocus his attention on the blue car, getting away slightly in front of him. Tim Perry back in fourth, Greg Young at fifth. John Billingsley up into seventh, beg your pardon, Alan Matthews in sixth, John Billingsley in seventh, Gus Swarbrick in eighth, Andrew Brammer in ninth now. 10 minutes to go. James Rose in 10th, just beginning the 11th lap of the race. Luke Wiggins in 12th, Luke Wiggins in 11th, Rob Whitney in 12th, and Andrew Whitehead unfortunately still back at the back of the grid. So with just under 10 minutes now counting down on the clock, Paul Plant has maintained his lead in the race after a brief battle with Matt Daly. Paul Plant has managed to defend his position very well and maintain it at the moment. So getting from, I believe, roughly 11th, 12th on the grid from where he was, I think, all the way up to the front and basically controlling the race from there. But a half spin through the first corner means that he'll be significantly slower than the two cars chasing behind him. Matt Daly has not able to capitalise on that mistake from Paul, but does close the gap quite significantly. Although he runs a little, it looks like he runs a little bit wide through Druids, and Colin Knief, I think, knows that, allowing him to close up on the back of Matt Daly. Tim Perry coming to shot on the back of the leading three, so getting ever so closer to battling with the group in front of him. Just over 7 minutes of the race remaining on the 12th lap of the race. All the cars sliding through the corners. The fantastic GTAm cars, the classic Alfas, racing around Brands Hatch GP circuit. Each of the drivers spotting the braking zones for Sterling's and getting a good drive down clearways into Clark Curve. The gap between Paul Plant and Matt Daly now back down to 0.6 of a second. There's a change in the middle, and the red means that Greg Young is off the road. Indeed he is, and that has allowed Alan Matthews up into 5th place. So I'm sure he will take that with glee. Andrew Whitehead has managed to get past Rob Whitney at the back of the field. Our top 3 runners managed to get through Paddock Hill and Pilgrim's Rise very, very cleanly now. Currently the top 3 in the race: Paul Plant, Matt Daly and Colin Keneath. So very, very close racing from all the drivers here. We will need to check the standing, need to do a little bit of maths work after the race and check the standings to see if Matt Daly has done enough maybe to bump his way up the order to clinch the historic title, as he is in the running for. Still 2 other championships to play for the rest of the Alfa Romeo Owners Club season. Paul Plant getting very out of shape there, coming out thirties. He's on the grass, he loses traction, and Matt Daly gets past him very, very cleanly. Was hurt very, very... Paul Plant does actually hit the barrier and spins out of control, so he'll actually fall down the order and lose out to Tim Perry as well. So a very, very unfortunate mistake from Paul Plant there means that he will he's back down into 4th place with 5 minutes of the race remaining. Matt Daly, I'm sure, can't believe his luck that Paul Plant made that error coming out of Sterling's corner and managed to blessedly get past him on the straight as Paul was just spinning out of control. And again, Colin Keneath. So essentially, I think Paul Plant just slid between Matt Daly and Colin Keneath very, very quickly there. So the both of them very, very lucky to get away without any major contact with Paul's car. But a very, very great shame for Paul that after such an incredible performance, getting from the mid-pack to the front and controlling the race there, small error has caused him to lose control of the car and fall back down into 4th place. So that has allowed Matt Daly to take the lead, to inherit the lead, with Colin Keneath on his tail, just about a second behind him. They are just beginning to come up to lapped traffic now. The car of Rob Whitney. So it'll be, let's hope Rob can get out the way. Matt Daly has to take slightly evasive action down clearways. Rob does stick to the outside, getting out the way as much as possible. However, that has allowed Colin Keneath to close the gap on Matt Daly's car, as Matt Daly had to back out the throttle to try and get round Rob's car. So Colin Keneath is now on the back of the bright yellow leader there. There is a change in the mid-pack as Luke Wiggins gets past James Rose. Both cars get through Paddock Hill bend very cleanly, are running the curbs up to Druids, both on the brakes, turning in. Colin getting a slightly tighter line through the bend, but an ever so slightly slower run out down the hill to Graham Hill Bend. 2.5 minutes left on the clock for us now. So I believe that would mean this there'll be 3 laps remaining, as they'll get round, as we have another lap from the leader once the clock reaches 0. just over 2 minutes of the race remaining. Matt Daly currently in first position. Both cars sliding through Sheens, finding their braking points for Sterling. Matt Daly looks like he is maintaining that gap of a second over Colin Knief there. Just getting across the start-finish straight. So with laps of about 1 minute 45, they this will most likely be the penultimate lap of the race, I believe. So the chances reducing for Colin Knief to try and make a move for pole for the top spot over Matt Daly. But Matt Daly looks like to be increasing the gap now. 1.2 seconds in places. So he's trying his absolute best to get away from Colin and run away with the race result this evening in our second race. So as we're on the penultimate lap, Tim Perry is in third place now. Paul Plant doing his best to catch up and possibly clinch a recover a third place there. Alan Matthews is back in fifth. Greg Young is in sixth. John Billingsley is in seventh. Guy Swarbrick is in eighth. Andrew Brammer is in 9th, Luke Wiggins 10th, James Rose in 11th. Andrew Whitehead, after a very, very disappointing couple of instants, is currently back in 12th. Rob Whitney is in 11th. There was a change there I saw in the mid-pack. But our leaders are now on the final lap of the race this evening at Brands Hatch. Matt Daly has maintained the gap incredibly well to Colin Knief, getting through a couple of instants and the hectic events of the first lap to get onto the back of Paul Plant's car, and has done a great result with where he is. As they just tiptoe their way through Hawthorne Bend down to the Westfield Bend. Matt Daly just sliding his car, spotting his braking points, trying to get the car through as clean as possible without any mistakes. He's seen what can happen when you overdrive the car. Paul Plant has demonstrated that, unfortunately, to his detriment. Matt Daly now coming out of Sterling's corner down the clearways. Colin Knief looks like he will not be close enough to make a challenge for the manoeuvre. And Matt Daly will take first place at Brands Hatch for the Alfa Romeo Owners Club historic race today. Well done to him. Colin Knief takes second. Tim Perry takes third. Paul Plant back down in fourth. I'm sure will be disappointed with his result. Alan Matthews in fifth. Greg Young now coming through the last corner to take sixth. John Billingsley coming through Clark Curve now to clinch seventh in the results. Guy Swarbrick has had a great result this evening, great couple of results this evening, and will take 8th place. just following behind him will be Luke Wiggins in 9th. Very close battle looks like between Andrew Brammer and James Rose, but Andrew has won out over James, and they are 10th and 11th respectively. A fair way back down the field, but not last in the order, is Andrew Whitehead. In 12th. To finish our standings, and then Rob Whitney in 13th there. So that's caused a bit of a headache mathematically, and unfortunately at this point I have no idea who's actually won the championship. I provisionally suspect, this may mean to be amended later, but I suspect Matt Daly has done enough to clinch the historic championship result, as there was a very small gap between him and Andrew Whitehead, and with their finishing orders for the race, I think Matt Daly may have done enough to possibly clinch that title, but that will need to be confirmed. There may potentially be stewards' inquiries and things that may change the result depending on the outcomes of whether they decide to change anything from the order. But fantastic result from Matt Daly. They're winning the race, and we will go and join Andrew Whitehead in the interview room. Hello, Andrew. You can't hear me. Don't you just love technical things there? Hang on, it's that one. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Mr. Williams.
There we go. I've turned myself off mute now. But there we are. How that very, very disappointing, unfortunately. Very bad luck there with the second race of the evening. How are you feeling after those couple of results for you?
A little bit cross with myself, to be honest. I got blinder of a start in that second. I mean, the first race was, I think those of us at the front kind of predicted that Matt would romp off and Colin would leave a bit of a gap to Colin, then Colin would gap me. So, you know, apologies for the to the viewers if that first race was particularly boring. I hope you were able to focus on some mid.
Oh, it was very good. There was a few mid-pace, mid-pack racing that was good. Matt Daly didn't get quite such a good start. It did look like Colin was potentially going to challenge him for the lead, but wasn't able to get the job done. But no, it was still a very, very good race.
The tyres sort of came to me towards the end of the first race. So I said to Colin afterwards, 18 more laps and I would have caught him. You know, but the second race, blinder of a start, a couple of good choices in terms of which way to go round Paddock Hill and Druids, and then through Graham Hill on lap 1, and then, you know, the whole thing with these cars is they're on a knife edge all of the time, and almost every corner the back end stepping out and you're controlling that oversteer, and just overcooked it into Paddock Hill. I don't know who it was, or I was in the middle of the track, and whoever it was who came over the brow had nowhere to go. And then as I was limping home, I think I got in the way of Al as well just on the GP loop there. So, you know, a few repairs, and then after that it was just a case of let's see if I can set fastest lap just to prove a point. I don't know if I did or not, but yeah, disappointing. But
I'm not too sure myself actually on that one. No, it was a great shame for you to end up where you were after such a great pace in the first race, and so it'll be interesting to see what this does to the historic championship standings now, because I think the results were updated between the two races, but there's going to be quite a big difference now, I think, between you and your nearest rival. So it'll be interesting to see what the actual final results will be from that one.
Well, interestingly, I don't know, because I've done quite well through the historics. Typically I love the cars, so I think all of my drop scores to date will be quite high. So actually taking this this 0 points on the last race then will be my drop score. So it actually might not work out too bad because my other results have been relatively good. So fingers crossed. But I had this
Very
dilemma.
true, very
I
true.
was looking in the mirror and thinking, I really don't want Matt to do ever so well, so I want Paul Plant and Colin to take points off him. And I'm thinking, I don't want Colin to take points off him because that's the overall championship going down the Swanee. So yeah.
There was a moment where Paul looked like he might be able to lap you, but he you did enough to get away from him in the end, and then the rest of the race panned out very differently after that point. So yeah.
Well, do you know what? I saw a blue flag and I thought, no way, I'm not having this. This is too bad. So I put my foot down and tried to gap him. So yeah, not having blue flags, I'm afraid.
Fantastic. Colin, you have joined us as well. Thank you for doing that. So yeah, some very decisive decisions in the second race to get round everyone, and behind Matt for the majority of it, and came away with a second place. How do you feel after that?
After what was happening in front of me, I'm delighted because it just seemed to be roadblocks everywhere I went. I could see Ted just finding all the gaps, just going through, and I'm just, how can this be happening? But I'd managed to keep the damage to a minimum by braking early and driving round it. I did catch Tim, but I had absolutely no way of avoiding him through the back section of the GP part. But we'll have to see what happens with that. But it looked at me that I didn't have a chance. But yeah, it was a bit mad. But these cars were always going to be on, as Ted says, they're on a knife edge the whole time. So you could be miles ahead, and it just takes one brain lapse, and then that's you.
It's a very, very different race to play out, I guess, from the first race, which was did it look like you were trying to get the best of Matt at the start of the first race, or and then just fell behind him, or how did that? What was going through your head with that one?
You did have the pace, so I was trying to get in front, but once that was it, I was just trying to save my tyres, because if you cook them, then you just lose more and more time as you go on. So it was just a case of holding the tyres, and then they did sort of come back, but I didn't hold them as good as Ted did, obviously, because I was catching Matt and Ted was catching me. So if I'd kept them as well as Ted did, then I probably would have had a chance. But yeah, it was just one of those races. I think just tyre management more than anything.
Very, very good. There was a moment towards the end of the second race, wasn't there, where Paul Plant, I think, came between you and Matt. I mean, was that a bit of a Brown moment when he was flying through the track in front of you, or what happened there from your perspective?
Yep, I saw the brown flag appearing in my the corner of my vision. So yeah, I didn't know what was going to happen, because Paul must have just missed Matt, and then if he'd hit him, then I would just went into Matt or Paul as well. So it would have been absolute chaos. And then I reckon Tim was close by as well, so he would have just been able to see it and go past. So yeah, it was definitely going to be a close one. And then I wasn't sure, once Paul missed Matt, I wasn't sure if he was just going to ping off the barrier and come back on. So I was looking for him, and yeah, it was just a bit mad.
But it was fantastic racing between the both of you. And yeah, we're going to leave it there, gents, and then we'll look forward to the next one. Thank you for talking this evening. Good to talk to you both.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Well, fantastic. Some thoughts there from the drivers. Fantastic racing. The second race, very, very action-packed. The championship points too close to call, as Ted said there, which I wasn't aware of. Drop scores come into play, so it'll be very interesting to see what actually happens at the end of it. And as soon as we know, I'm sure it'll be posted online, and I'll update you next week as well, on next Thursday for the next event. The next event, which will be at the Yas Marina circuit, I believe. So that's going to end the stream for this evening. Oh, we might have results coming in hot off the press. So it looks like actually the points have been frantically calculated in the background, and it looks like Matt Daly has potentially officially clinched the 2020 historic Alfa Romeo Owners Club title. So well done to him for that. Andrew coming in a second place, and Tim Perry coming in third for that championship. So well done to them for their positions. Unfortunately, not quite so much of a grandeur display of congratulations. I haven't got any party streamers, I'm afraid. I should have brought a party streamer or something just to celebrate that result. But yes, so well done for them. So yeah, that ends the stream. Next race is next Thursday. There are still 2 other titles to contend for. We have the overall titles are to contend for, so we'll try and keep you updated with that as well. I hope you all have a great evening. I hope you all have a great week, and I shall see you all again very soon. There we are.